Elena's hands shook. The champagne glasses on her tray rattled against each other. She stood frozen in the middle of the ballroom. Her eyes locked on one man across the room, Jonathan Whitmore, billionaire, the most powerful man in Chicago. He stood surrounded by people in designer suits and diamond necklaces. But Elena didn't see any of them. She only saw his wrists, the cufflinks, blue enamel, Art Deco design, the same ones her father wore the day he disappeared. Her breath caught in her throat. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Around her, crystal clinked. Champagne bubbled. Someone laughed too loud. The smell of expensive perfume made her dizzy. But all Elena could see were those cufflinks. The ones that shouldn't exist. The ones that vanished with her father 29 years ago. The ones now sitting on a stranger's wrists like they belonged there. Elena's mind screamed at her to move, to walk over there, to demand answers. But her feet stayed planted on the marble floor. She was invisible here. Just another caterer in a black vest and white shirt. Nobody looked at people like her. That was a point. She served the champagne. She cleared the plates. She disappeared. That's how she survived. That's how she paid the medical bills still crushing her. The ones from her mother's cancer treatment. The ones that took everything. Her mother's face flashed in her mind. The hospital bed. The morphine drip. Her mother's last words. I just want to know what happened to him. Elena never got to give her that answer. Her mother died not knowing, not understanding why her husband walked out one night and never came back. The police said he abandoned them, just left, started a new life somewhere else. Her mother never believed it, but she died anyway, without the truth. Elena's pulse thundered in her ears. She looked down at the champagne tray. The glasses caught the chandelier light. Pretty, expensive, not for her. Nothing in this room was for her. These people spent more on one dress than Elena made in 6 months. And Jonathan Whitmore owned half of them. His company built half of Chicago. His name was on hospitals, on libraries, on charity foundations. Everyone loved him. Everyone said he cared about working families, about construction workers, about people like Elena's father. But those cufflinks, Elena knew them. She'd seen them 1,000 times in the only photo she had left. Her 8th birthday, her father lifting her onto his shoulders, the cufflinks catching the sun. He told her his own father made them in Mexico City, by hand, one of a kind, family treasure, the only thing Diego Martinez brought from his old life. And now they were here, on Jonathan Whitmore's wrists. Elena's stomach twisted. Maybe she was wrong. Maybe they just looked similar. Maybe she was seeing things because she wanted answers so badly. But her body moved anyway. Her feet carried her forward, through the crowd, past the people who didn't see her, toward the man who wore her father's cufflinks like they were his. Elena stopped 3 feet away from Jonathan Whitmore. Up close, he was taller than she expected. Silver hair, expensive suit. He held a champagne glass in one hand. A woman in red hung on his other arm. He was laughing at something someone said. He didn't notice Elena. Nobody noticed her. Excuse me. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. Quieter. Whitmore turned. His eyes passed over her like she wasn't quite real. Yes. Elena's mouth went dry. Her hands gripped the tray tighter. I need to ask you something. The woman in red frowned. Someone else in the circle shifted uncomfortably. Elena didn't belong here. Everyone could tell. This isn't really the time, Whitmore said. His smile stayed in place. Polite, dismissive. Where did you get those cufflinks? The words tumbled out. Whitmore glanced down at his wrists. These? They're vintage. Why? Elena pulled her phone from her vest pocket. Her fingers shook as she opened her photos. She found the one, the only one, turned the screen toward him. Because they belonged to my father. Whitmore's champagne glass stopped halfway to his mouth. His eyes went to the photo. Elena watched his face, watched the color drain from his skin, watched his jaw go tight. The photo showed a man in his 30s, brown skin, work clothes, a little girl on his shoulders, and there on his wrists those exact cufflinks. Where did you get this? Whitmore's voice changed, lower, harder. That's my father, Diego Martinez. He wore those cufflinks every day. Elena's voice shook, but she kept going. He disappeared in 1996. Aurora, Illinois. He was a construction foreman. And those are his. Whitmore stared at the photo. Something moved behind his eyes. Fear, guilt, something that made Elena's chest go tight. He recognized something. He knew. You're mistaken. Whitmore handed her phone back without looking at her. These have been in my family for years. No. Elena's voice came out stronger now. Look at them. The pattern. The blue enamel. The chip on the left one. It's the same. The woman in red touched Whitmore's arm. Jonathan. Security. Whitmore didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. Two men in dark suits appeared from nowhere. Their hands closed around Elena's arms. She dropped the champagne tray. It hit the marble floor. Glasses shattered. Champagne spread across the perfect white stone. The entire ballroom went quiet. Everyone turned. Everyone stared. Wait. Elena tried to pull free. Please. I just want to know what happened to my father. Miss, you need to leave. One of the security guards pulled her backward. He recognized him. Elena's voice cracked. You saw his face. He knows something. Whitmore turned away, back to his conversation. Like Elena didn't exist. Like she'd never been there. The woman in red whispered something. Other guests closed around him. A wall of expensive fabric and jewelry, protecting him from her. The security guards dragged Elena toward the exit. Her feet slipped on the wet marble. People watched her go. Some looked uncomfortable. Most looked annoyed. A server making a scene. How embarrassing. How inappropriate. You're fired, one of the guards said. Don't come back. They pushed her through the golden doors. Out into the cold Chicago night. The doors closed behind her, locked. And Elena stood there on the sidewalk, shaking, her phone still in her hand, the photo of her father still on the screen. And somewhere inside that building, Jonathan Whitmore wore her father's cufflinks. And he knew exactly who Diego Martinez was. Elena just lost everything for asking one question. But sometimes the hardest questions are the ones we need to ask. If you're already hooked on where this story goes, hit that like button. And if you want to see how far she's willing to go for the truth, subscribe and stick around. Because this is just the beginning. Elena sat on the cold concrete outside the Palmer House Hotel, her back pressed against the stone wall. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. The night air bit through her thin vest. She pulled her knees up, wrapped her arms around them, tried to breathe. She'd lost her job. Again, this was the third catering gig this year. Nobody wanted to hire someone who made scenes. Someone who accused billionaires of theft. Someone unstable. Her phone buzzed. A text from her landlord. Rent was late. Again, she had 5 days before eviction proceedings started. Elena closed her eyes. The medical debt sat at $43,000. Her mother had been dead for 2 years. The bills kept coming anyway. You okay? Elena looked up. A black man in a security uniform stood above her. Older, maybe 50s. Gray at his temples. His badge said Marcus. I'm fine. Elena wiped her face. She hadn't realized she was crying. Marcus sat down next to her. His knees cracked. I saw what happened in there. Elena's chest tightened. Great. Come and tell me I'm crazy too. No. Marcus pulled a thermos from his jacket, poured coffee into the lid, handed it to her. I came to tell you I believe you. Elena stared at him. The coffee steam rose between. I've worked security at Whitmore events for 8 years, Marcus said. I notice things. Mr. Whitmore has a collection. Small things. Watches. Rings. Cufflinks. Things that don't match his style. Things that look personal. Like they belong to someone else. Elena's hands wrapped around the warm cup. Why would he keep them? Trophies. Marcus's voice went flat. I've seen it before. Powerful men who need reminders of the people they stepped on. Proof they won. That's sick. That's rich people. Marcus shrugged. Other staff have noticed too. A server once mentioned it. She got fired the next day. We learn not to ask questions. Elena took a sip of coffee. It burned her tongue. So what am I supposed to do? I have no proof. No money. No lawyer. He'll bury me. Maybe. Marcus stood up. His knees cracked again. But you've got something he doesn't. What's that? Nothing to lose. Marcus looked down at her. And you've got the truth. That's worth something. Not much, but something. Elena watched him walk back toward the hotel entrance. He stopped at the door. Turned back. Chicago Public Library opens at 9, Marcus said. They keep newspaper archives. If something happened to your father, there might be a record. Start there. He disappeared inside. Elena sat alone on the concrete. The coffee warmed her hands. Her phone buzzed again. Another text. Another bill. Another threat. She looked at her father's photo one more time. His smile. His hands on her shoulders. The cufflinks catching the light. Marcus was right. She had nothing left to lose. Her mother died without answers. Elena wouldn't. She stood up. Her legs felt steadier. The decision settled in her chest like a weight. She was going to find out what happened, no matter what it cost. The Chicago Public Library smelled like old paper and floor polish. Elena sat at a desk in the basement archives. Microfiche machines hummed around her. Her eyes burned. She'd been reading for 4 hours. The Tribune archives from 1996 filled the screen. She scrolled through August, September, October, looking for anything, any mention of her father's name, of construction accidents, of Whitmore development. Then she found it. October 17th, 1996. Page 12. Small article. Easy to miss. 4 dead in River North construction collapse. Elena's breath stopped. She leaned closer. Read every word. 4 workers died when scaffolding collapsed at the Whitmore Development luxury condo project. The site foreman, Diego Martinez, told investigators the workers were following safety procedures. OSHA opened an investigation. Families of the victims demanded answers. Elena's hands shook. She printed the article. Kept scrolling. October 24th, 1996. Page 18. Even smaller. Construction deaths ruled accidental. OSHA closed the investigation after 1 week. Determined the collapse was due to unexpected wind conditions. No safety violations found. Whitmore Development expressed condolences. Offered settlements to the families. All 4 families accepted. 1 week. That was it. 4 men died, and the investigation lasted 7 days. Elena kept searching. November, December, January 1997. Nothing about the accident. Nothing about the families. Nothing about her father. Then, February 3rd, 1997. Page 23. Police blotter section. Diego Martinez, 34, reported missing by family. Last seen January 28th. Aurora police seek information. 3 months after the accident. Her father disappeared. Elena remembered that night. Coming home from school. Her mother crying in the kitchen. Police officers asking questions Elena didn't understand. Her mother kept saying he wouldn't just leave. Something was wrong. The police didn't believe her. They never did. Elena printed everything. 32 pages. She spread them across the desk. Stared at the timeline. October 17th. 4 workers die. October 24th. Investigation closed. Families paid. January 28th. Her father disappears. She pulled up the Cook County Court Records database. Typed in the victims' names. Found the settlement cases. All 4 settled out of court. Amounts undisclosed. Files sealed. Something cold settled in Elena's stomach. This wasn't random. 4 men died. The investigation shut down impossibly fast. Families paid to be quiet. And 3 months later, the site foreman vanished. She searched for more Whitmore Development accidents. Found 3 others. 1994 in Lincoln Park. 2 workers injured. Case settled. 1998 in Wicker Park. 1 worker died. Case settled. 2001 in Hyde Park. 3 workers injured. Case settled. A pattern. Over and over. Accidents at Whitmore sites. Quick investigations. Sealed settlements. And the people who knew what really happened, they disappeared. Or they stayed quiet. Elena's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Is this Elena Martinez? A woman's voice. Professional. Sharp. Yes. This is Sarah Chun from a Tribune. I'm calling about your social media post regarding Jonathan Whitmore. Elena sat up straighter. She'd posted about the gala last night. About the cufflinks. About her father. Yes. Mr. Whitmore's legal team contacted us. They're preparing a defamation lawsuit. They wanted to give you a chance to retract your statements before they file. I'm calling to verify the claims you made. Elena's chest tightened. Everything I said is true. Can you prove it? Elena looked at the 32 pages spread across the desk. The articles, the court records, the pattern of accidents and disappeared workers. I'm working on it. Jonathan Whitmore wasn't always a billionaire. In 1985, he was just Jonathan, 28 years old. His father's disappointment. The Whitmore family made their money in railroads and steel. Old Chicago wealth. The kind that bought politicians and named buildings. Jonathan's older brother ran the family business. His sister married a senator. Jonathan got an architecture degree and designed buildings nobody wanted to build. His father called him soft, said he wasted time on beauty when he should focus on profit. The family business didn't need dreamers. It needed killers. So Jonathan became a killer. He started Whitmore Development in 1989, borrowed money from his father, built his first condo project in River North, cut every corner he could find. He used cheap materials, hired undocumented workers who wouldn't complain, paid off inspectors. The building sold for twice what it cost to build. His father finally smiled at him. Jonathan wanted that smile again. He built faster, cheaper, bigger. 5 projects by 1993, 10 by 1995. His buildings filled Chicago's skyline, glass and steel monuments to his name, not his father's. His, but speed costs. Cheap materials crack. Unpaid workers cut corners. Bribed inspectors miss problems. And in October 1996, those problems killed 4 men. Jonathan got the call at midnight. Scaffolding collapse at the River North site. For dead. Ambulances. Police. News cameras. His stomach dropped. His hands shook. This would destroy everything. The lawsuits. The investigations. The shame. His father would never forgive him. His lawyer arrived at dawn, explained the situation. OSHA would investigate. Criminal charges were possible. The families would sue. Unless what? Jonathan asked. Unless we move fast, control the narrative, make the problem disappear. So they did. The lawyer called contacts at OSHA, made donations to the right campaigns, found an inspector willing to sign off on win conditions. It cost $200,000 in bribes. Cheap. The families got settlements. $500,000 each. More money than they'd ever seen. They signed NDAs. Agreed not to talk to press. The news cycle moved on. The investigation closed. But there was one problem. The site foreman, Diego Martinez. Diego knew everything. He'd filed complaints about the safety violations, wrote reports, took photos. He had proof. And he wouldn't take the settlement. He wanted a real investigation. He wanted justice. Jonathan's lawyer explained the options. They could pay Diego to disappear. $200,000. New identity. New life. Somewhere far from Chicago. Or they could frame him for the deaths. Make him the villain. The negligent foreman who cut corners and killed his own crew. Jonathan met Diego in a parking garage. Showed him both options. The money or the prison sentence. Diego cried. Said he had a wife. A daughter. He couldn't go to prison. But he couldn't live with the guilt either. Take the money, Jonathan said. Start over. Forget this happened. What about the families? Diego asked. They're taken care of. About my family? Jonathan pulled the cufflinks from Diego's wrists. Art Deco. Blue enamel. Beautiful. You'll never see them again. That's the price. You take the money, you disappear, and you never contact them. Ever. Those are the terms. Diego stared at the cufflinks in Jonathan's hand. They were his father's. Made by hand in Mexico City. The only thing he had from his old life. Now, they sat in Jonathan's palm, like evidence. If you try to come back, Jonathan said, if you try to contact your wife or daughter, if you talk to any reporters or lawyers, I'll destroy you. I'll make sure you go to prison for those deaths. Do you understand? Diego understood. Jonathan kept the cufflinks, put them in a drawer at home, looked at them sometimes. A reminder of the day he chose to become what his father wanted. A reminder that he could make problems disappear, that he had that kind of power. Over the years, the collection grew. A watch from a contractor he bankrupted. A ring from an architect he stole designs from, a necklace from a community organizer who tried to stop his developments. Small things, personal things, trophies. And every time Jonathan wore them, he remembered. He had won, and they had lost. Elena found the lawyer through a workers' rights organization. His name was James Park. His office sat above a Korean restaurant in Albany Park. The whole place smelled like kimchi. "Tell me everything," James said. Elena laid it out. The cufflinks, the gala confrontation, the 1996 accident, the sealed settlements, her father's disappearance, the pattern of accidents at Whitmore sites. All of it. James listened, took notes. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair. "This is good information," he said, "but it's not proof." "What do you mean?" "You have circumstantial evidence, coincidences, patterns, but nothing that directly connects Whitmore to your father's disappearance or the accident cover-up. The settlements are sealed. The investigation was closed legally. The cufflinks alone don't prove anything." Elena's chest tightened. "So there's nothing we can do?" "I didn't say that." James pulled out a contract. "I can file a civil suit, try to unseal those settlement records, depose witnesses, but it will take years, and it will cost money you don't have. Whitmore's legal team will bury us in motions and delays. That's what they do." Elena stared at the contract. Years, money, delays. Her mother didn't have years. Elena didn't either. "What if I go to the media?" she asked. James frowned. "That's risky. Without proof, you're just making accusations. Whitmore could sue you for defamation. Win. Take everything you have left." "I don't have anything left." "Then you have nothing to lose." James slid the contract across the desk. "Your choice." Elena didn't sign it. She walked out of his office and went straight to the Tribune building, asked for Sarah Chin, the reporter who called her. Sarah met her in the lobby, young, sharp suit, notebook in hand. She looked at Elena like she was a story that might not be worth the time. "You said you could prove your claims," Sarah said. Elena showed her everything. The articles, the court records, the accident patterns, her father's photo with the cufflinks. Sarah flipped through the pages. Her expression didn't change. "This is interesting," Sarah said, "but it's all public record. There's no smoking gun, no source willing to go on record. Without that, it's just speculation. We can't publish speculation about a billionaire." "Why not?" "Because he'll sue us, and he'll win." Sarah handed the papers back. "If you get an inside source, someone who worked for Whitmore who's willing to talk, or documents that prove a cover-up, come back. Until then, I can't help you." Elena posted everything on Twitter that night. The photos, the articles, the timeline. Wrote out the whole story in a thread. Tagged Whitmore Development. Tagged local news stations. Tagged everyone she could think of. The response was immediate. Whitmore's PR team released a statement within hours. Called Elena a troubled individual making false accusations. Said she'd been fired for erratic behavior. Suggested she needed mental health support. Sympathetic. Concerned. Devastating. The news picked it up. Not her story. Their story. Woman makes wild claims about Chicago billionaire. Disgruntled ex-employee spreads conspiracy theory. Mental health crisis highlights dangers of social media. Her phone exploded. Messages from strangers calling her crazy. Attention seeker. Liar. Her catering contacts stopped responding. 3 companies emailed to cancel future contracts. Her landlord called. Said other tenants were uncomfortable. She had until Friday to pay rent plus late fees, or he'd start eviction. Elena sat in her studio apartment, watched her life crumble on a screen. Whitmore's team was good. They made her the villain, made her the problem, and he stayed the hero, the philanthropist, the man who built Chicago. She'd lost. Before she even started, she'd already lost. Her phone buzzed. New email, encrypted, from someone named Thomas Chen. Subject line, "I knew your father." Elena stared at the email for 5 minutes before opening it. Her hand shook. This could be anything. A trap. A journalist. Another person calling her crazy. She clicked. "My name is Thomas Chen. I'm 67 years old. I worked construction for 43 years. I was there the day Diego Martinez's crew died. I saw everything. I've stayed quiet for 29 years. I can't stay quiet anymore. If you want to know what really happened to your father, meet me at Lou Mitchell's restaurant tomorrow at noon. Come alone. Don't tell anyone. Whitmore has people everywhere. Elena read it 3 times. Her heart hammered against her ribs. This could be real. Or it could be Whitmore's team setting her up, getting her to say something they could use against her, making her look even more unstable. But what choice did she have? She showed up at Lou Mitchell's at 11:45, sat in a booth by the window, ordered coffee she didn't drink, watched every person who walked in. At exactly noon, an older Asian man approached her table. Gray hair, weathered face, work boots. He looked tired, like he'd been carrying something heavy for a very long time. "Elena?" he asked. She nodded. Thomas sat down, didn't order anything, just looked at her for a long moment. "You look like him," he said finally. "Your father. Same eyes." Elena's throat closed. "You really knew him?" "I was his assistant foreman. Worked under him for 2 years. He was a good man, careful, followed every safety rule. That's why I knew." "Knew what?" Thomas pulled a manila folder from his jacket, set it on the table between them. "Didn't open it yet. The scaffolding didn't collapse because of wind," he said. "It collapsed because Whitmore cut costs. The bolts were substandard. Half the required support cables. No proper inspections. Diego filed complaints, wrote reports, took photos of every violation. He told them someone would die. They told him to keep working or find another job." Elena's nails dug into her palms. "So what happened?" "The men died, just like Diego said they would. And suddenly everyone wanted those reports to disappear. OSHA came, asked questions. Diego showed them everything. Then the OSHA inspector stopped returning calls. Someone paid him off. The investigation closed. Fast. Why didn't you say something?" Thomas looked out the window. His jaw worked. "I have a wife. 3 kids back then. Whitmore's lawyer visited my house. Told me I didn't see anything. Told me my family would suffer if I talked. I believed him. I was a coward." "You were scared." "Same thing." Thomas pushed the folder toward her. "These are copies of Diego's original safety reports. Photos, emails, everything he documented before he disappeared." Elena's hands shook as she opened the folder. Saw her father's handwriting, dated complaints, photos of faulty scaffolding, email chains begging management to fix the violations. It was all there. Proof. "Why are you giving this to me now?" Elena asked. "Because I'm dying," Thomas said simply. "Lung cancer. 6 months maybe. And I can't die carrying this. Your father tried to do the right thing. It destroyed him." Elena looked up. "What do you mean destroyed him?" Thomas met her eyes. Something heavy sat in his expression. Something that made Elena's stomach drop. "Your father didn't just disappear, Elena," Thomas said quietly. "He made a choice. They offered him money, $200,000. Take it and vanish. Or go to prison for the deaths. They had lawyers ready to frame him, make him the negligent foreman who cut corners. He had a wife, a daughter. What would you have done?" Elena couldn't breathe. He took the money. Thomas nodded, and he hated himself for it every day after. Elena sat frozen in the booth. The restaurant noise faded to nothing. All she could hear was her heartbeat. Loud, painful. "My father took money to stay silent about 4 deaths." Her voice came out wrong, broken. Thomas didn't look away. "He took money to keep his family safe. There's a difference." "No, there isn't." Elena's hands fisted on the table. 4 families lost someone. My mother died not knowing what happened to her husband, and he just took money and left. It wasn't that simple. It sounds pretty simple to me. Heat flooded Elena's face. Tears pressed behind her eyes. She wouldn't cry. Not here. Not now. Thomas pulled an envelope from his jacket. Old. Yellowed. He set it next to the folder. "He left this for you, in case you ever found out. I've been holding on to it for 29 years. Elena stared at the envelope, her name written in her father's handwriting. Her hands shook as she picked it up. The paper felt fragile, like it might crumble. She opened it, pulled out a letter, 2 pages, dated February 1997, 1 month after he disappeared. "My dearest Elena," it started. Elena's vision blurred. She blinked hard, kept reading. "If you're reading this, You know the truth. You know what I did. You know I took money and left you and your mother. There's no apology big enough. No explanation good enough. But you deserve to know why. They told me I had two choices. Take $200,000 and disappear forever. Never contact you or your mother. Never come back to Chicago. Or go to prison for 20 years for criminal negligence and manslaughter. They had lawyers. They had forged documents showing I approved the faulty scaffolding. They had witnesses who would lie. They would make me the villain, make me responsible for killing my own crew. I knew they would win. Rich men always win. I thought about fighting, thought about staying, telling the truth. But then I thought about you. 7 years old. What would happen if your father went to prison? If your mother had to raise you alone with no money? If you grew up visiting me behind glass? The money would keep you safe, pay for school, pay the bills, keep you and your mother fed. That's what I told myself. That's what I chose to believe. I know now I was wrong. I should have fought. I should have stayed. Money doesn't replace a father. Safety doesn't replace truth. But I was scared. I was weak. And I made a choice I can't take back. I'm sorry, Mew Moore. I'm sorry I left. I'm sorry I chose wrong. I'm sorry you'll grow up thinking I abandoned you. But know this. Every day I'm gone, I think of you. Every dollar of that blood money burns. I will never forgive myself. I don't expect you to forgive me either. If you're reading this, you're probably angry. You should be. You're probably hurt. You have every right. But please understand one thing. Leaving you was the hardest thing I've ever done. And living with that choice is the price I pay every single day. I love you. I'm sorry. Those are the only words I have left. Your father, Diego. Elena read it twice, 3 times. The word swam. Her throat felt like it was closing. Her chest hurt. She couldn't breathe. He gave you that blood money, Elena whispered. The medical bills. My mother's cancer treatment. That came from his guilt money. Thomas nodded slowly. He set up an anonymous fund. Sent money whenever your mother needed it. He watched you grow up from far away. Made sure you were okay. We weren't okay. Elena's voice cracked. My mother died thinking he abandoned us. Died thinking she wasn't worth staying for. And I grew up fatherless because he was too scared to fight. He was human, Thomas said quietly. Humans make mistakes. Mistakes are forgetting to call someone back. This was a choice. He chose money over his family, over justice, over 4 dead workers. Elena stood up. Her legs felt shaky. The folder and letters sat on the table. Proof of everything. Proof her father was complicit. Proof he ran. Proof he was both victim and villain. Where is he now? Elena asked. Thomas hesitated. Portland, Oregon. New name. David Morgan. He works construction still. Sends money to the families of the men who died. As much as he can. It doesn't bring them back. But he tries. He's alive. Elena's voice went flat. All these years. Her mother's grief. Her own anger. And he was just living in Portland. Building buildings. Pretending to be someone else. He's barely alive, Thomas said. Guilt eats people from the inside. Your father is a ghost. He stopped living the day he took that money. Elena picked up the folder, the letter, held them against her chest. Her whole life was a lie. Her father wasn't a victim who disappeared. He was a man who chose wrong, who ran, who let rich men buy his silence and destroy his family. But he was also a man who was threatened, scared, given an impossible choice between 2 awful options. Prison or exile. Ruin his family by staying or ruin them by leaving. Elena didn't know how to feel. Angry, hurt, sad, betrayed, understanding. It all mixed together. A mess she couldn't untangle. Thank you for this, she finally said. For keeping it. For telling me the truth. Thomas stood, put a hand on her shoulder. Your father tried to do the right thing at first. He just didn't have the strength to see it through. Maybe you do. Maybe you can finish what he started. He walked out of the restaurant, left Elena standing there with her father's confession in her hands, and a question burning in her mind. What would she do with it? Elena just discovered her father isn't the hero she thought he was. He's human, flawed, complicated, just like all of us. If this story is hitting different than you expected, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Also drop a comment and let me know what you're thinking. Are you Team Elena, Team Diego, or somewhere in between? I read every comment. Elena spent the rest of the day in her apartment, spread Thomas's documents across her floor, read every report her father wrote, looked at every photo, studied every email. The evidence was clear. Whitmore Development knowingly used substandard materials, ignored safety warnings, rushed construction to meet deadlines. 4 men died because of decisions made in boardrooms by men in suits who never swung a hammer. Her father documented everything. He was trying to build a case, trying to protect his workers, trying to do the right thing, until they gave him a choice that wasn't really a choice at all. Elena's phone sat next to her. Thomas had written one more thing on the back of the envelope: an address in Portland, a phone number, her father's new identity. David Morgan, 503 area code. Elena stared at the number for an hour. Her thumb hovered over the screen. Did she want to talk to him? Did she want to hear his voice after 29 years? Did she want to give him the chance to explain? Or would hearing him make everything worse? She thought about her mother, how she died without knowing, how the not knowing ate her alive, how she spent 29 years wondering if her husband stopped loving her, if she did something wrong, if she wasn't enough. Elena wouldn't live like that. She needed to know. She needed to hear it from him, even if it hurt. She dialed. The phone rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Maybe he wouldn't answer. Maybe this number was old. Maybe. Hello? A man's voice. Older, tired, careful. Elena's breath caught. She knew that voice, deep in her memory. A voice that read her bedtime stories, that sang her songs, that told her everything would be okay. Is this David Morgan? She couldn't call him Diego. Not yet. Silence. Long, heavy. And who is this? It's Elena. Her voice broke on her own name. It's your daughter. More silence. She heard breathing, shaky, like he was trying not to cry. Elena. He said her name like a prayer, like something holy he didn't deserve to touch. How did you find me? Thomas Chun gave me your letter and your reports, everything you documented about the accident. Thomas. Diego exhaled. I told him to burn those. He didn't. He kept them. And now I have them. Why are you calling? Diego's voice was barely a whisper. After everything I did, why would you want to talk to me? Because I need to know something. Elena's nails dug into her palm. Did you ever think about us? About me and Mom? Or did the money make it easier to forget? Forget. Diego's voice cracked. Me and more, I think about you every day. Every single day, for 29 years. The money didn't make anything easier. It made everything worse. I see your mother's face. I see your face. I see those 4 men who died. I see all of it. All the time. I haven't forgotten anything. Then why didn't you come back? Because I was a coward. Simple. Honest. Devastating. I told myself I was protecting you, keeping you safe. But the truth is I was protecting myself. I couldn't face what I'd done. I couldn't look you in the eye and explain why I chose wrong. So I stayed away, and I let you think I didn't love you, which was worse than anything I could have faced. Elena wiped her eyes. Tears fell anyway. Mom died thinking you abandoned us. I know. Diego's crying now too. She could hear it. I know. That's the worst part. I could have told her the truth. Could have found a way to explain. But I didn't. I let her die, wondering. That's on me. All of it is on me. Elena looked at the documents spread across her floor. Proof of corruption. Proof of cover-up. Proof that Whitmore destroyed lives and paid to erase the evidence. I'm going after him, Elena said. Whitmore, I'm going to expose everything. But I need your help. I need you to testify. Tell your story. Admit what happened. Diego was quiet for a long time. That means admitting what I did. Going public. Facing consequences. Yes. I could go to prison. Maybe. Elena's jaw set. But you'll finally do the right thing. 29 years late. But still right. Another long silence. Then okay. Tell me what you need. Elena didn't stop with the 1996 documents. She kept digging. If Whitmore did it once, he'd do it again. Men like him didn't learn. They just got better at hiding. She found it 3 days later, buried in city permit filings. Environmental impact reports. Zoning variance requests. Whitmore's newest project. Lakefront Towers. A billion-dollar luxury development on the Chicago waterfront. 80 floors, 500 units. Starting price, $2 million. The permits were rushed. Approved in record time. The environmental review was cursory. The safety inspections were minimal. And the construction timeline was impossibly fast. 18 months from groundbreaking to occupancy. Elena recognized the pattern. She'd seen it before. In 1996. In all the other accidents. Cut corners. Rush approvals. Bribe inspectors. Build fast and cheap. Sell high. And when something goes wrong, pay people to stay quiet. She called Marcus, the security guard who believed her. I need a favor, she said. I'm listening. Can you get me onto the Lakefront Towers construction site? That's not a favor. That's a crime. I know, but I think he's doing it again. Cutting safety. Rushing construction. Workers are at risk right now. Marcus was quiet. Then they went at dawn. Before workers arrived, Marcus used his security connections to get a contractor's pass. They wore hard hats and vests, walked onto the site like they belonged. Elena took photos of everything. Support beams that didn't match building codes. Electrical work that wasn't properly grounded. Concrete that hadn't cured long enough. Scaffolding held together with substandard bolts. The same bolts that killed her father's crew in 1996. This is bad, Marcus whispered. This whole building is a death trap. That's what I needed to see. Elena's hands shook as she took more photos. This is Whitmore's weakness. He thinks he's untouchable. He thinks he can keep doing this forever. But he's sloppy. He leaves evidence everywhere because he doesn't think anyone will look. They left before anyone saw them. Elena had over 200 photos. Proof that Whitmore was repeating his crimes. Proof that workers were in danger right now. Not 30 years ago. Now, she sent everything to Sarah Chun at the Tribune with a note. This is your smoking gun. People are at risk. Today, do your job. Sarah called an hour later. Where did you get these? Does it matter? Yes. If you obtained them illegally, we can't use them. Elena closed her eyes. Of course. Of course there was another obstacle. I have a source willing to go on record. A whistleblower from inside Whitmore Development. He'll verify everything. Testify that Whitmore has been cutting safety corners for 30 years. That this is his pattern. That he's doing it again right now. Who's the source? My father. Diego Martinez. The foreman from the 1996 accident. The one Whitmore paid to disappear. Sarah was quiet. Elena could hear her typing. That's a hell of a source. But he's also complicit. He took the money. Stayed quiet. A defense lawyer will tear him apart. I know, but it's the truth. And the truth is messy. It doesn't mean he's wrong about Whitmore. It just means he's human. More typing. Then, send me everything. The 1996 documents. Your father's testimony. The photos from Lakefront Towers. I'll talk to my editor. If your father is willing to go on record, admit what he did, and testify against Whitmore, we'll run the story. When? 2 weeks. We need to verify everything. Contact other sources. Build the case. But if this all checks out, it's front page. Elena exhaled. For the first time in months, something loosened in her chest. Hope. Small. Fragile. But real. Thank you, she said. Don't thank me yet, Sarah replied. Whitmore will come after you with everything he has. Are you ready for that? Elena thought about her mother, about her father, about 4 dead workers, about current workers at risk. Yes, I'm ready. Diego flew to Chicago 3 days later. Elena picked him up at O'Hare. She waited at baggage claim, watched passengers stream past, and then she saw him. Older, gray hair, weathered face, but the same eyes, the same hands. He carried one small bag, looked lost, like he didn't belong in this airport, this city, this life. Their eyes met across the crowd. Elena didn't run to him, didn't hug him, just stood there, looking at the man who left her 29 years ago, the man who chose wrong, the man who was still her father. Diego walked over, stopped 3 feet away, like he was afraid to get closer. Hi, mi amor, he said quietly. Hi. Elena's voice came out flat. She didn't know how to feel. Part of her wanted to hug him. Part of her wanted to scream. Mostly she just felt tired. They drove to her apartment in silence. Diego looked out the window, at the city he left behind, the city he'd been erased from. It's changed, she said. All these new buildings. Yeah, Whitmore built most of them. Diego flinched, didn't respond. At her apartment, Elena spread the documents across her table, showed him everything. The Tribune article, Sarah Chen's outline, the photos from Lakefront Towers, the plan. Sarah wants an exclusive interview, Elena explained. You tell your story, all of it. The 1996 accident, the bribes, the threats, the money, everything. And then you testify that you're seeing the same pattern now, that workers are at risk, that Whitmore is doing it again. Diego picked up one of the photos. Workers on scaffolding, the same substandard bolts. This is exactly like 1996. I know, people could die. They will die, unless we stop it. Diego set the photo down. His hand shook. I'll do it. Whatever you need. It's time I faced what I did. You'll be admitting to taking hush money, staying silent about deaths. You could face charges. I know. You'll lose your anonymity, your new life, everything. I never had a life. Diego looked at her. His eyes were wet. I've been dead for 29 years, just walking around. This is my chance to actually live, to do something right. Finally, Elena nodded. Something tight in her chest loosened just a little. Okay, the interview is in 4 days. Sarah wants it on camera. She wants your face, your name, your full story. And after the interview, we go to the Whitmore Foundation Gala. Elena pulled out an invitation. Marcus had gotten it for her. Same event where this started. Whitmore's accepting another award. We'll be there. You, me, Sarah, and cameras. We confront him publicly. Show him the evidence. Make him answer for what he's done. On camera, in front of everyone. Diego looked at the invitation. The same gold lettering. The same prestige. He'll have security. Lawyers. He won't go quietly. I know, but he won't expect you. He thinks you're still hiding. Still scared. When you walk into that ballroom, when he sees you, he'll know his cover-up failed. That someone finally had the courage to speak. Diego corrected quietly. Someone finally had the courage. Past tense. That was you, Elena. You started this. You refused to stay quiet. You're braver than I ever was. Elena felt tears press behind her eyes. She blinked them back. I learned it for some. Eventually. Diego smiled. Small. Sad. Better late than never. Better late than never. Elena agreed. They spent the next 4 days preparing, rehearsing, building their case, and planning the confrontation that would finally bring Jonathan Whitmore's empire crashing down. 1 year later, Elena stood outside the Palmer House Hotel again. Same building, same golden doors, but everything was different. She wore a press credential around her neck. Assistant to Sarah Chun, investigative journalist, not a caterer, not invisible, not anymore. Sarah checked her equipment bag. Camera, backup recorder, microphones, everything they needed to capture what happened next. You ready? Sarah asked. Elena nodded. Her hands didn't shake this time. Her heart beat steady. She'd spent a year preparing for this moment. A year building the case, gathering evidence, getting ready. Inside the ballroom, the Whitmore Foundation Gala looked exactly the same. Crystal chandeliers, designer gowns, champagne towers, rich people celebrating a rich man. Tonight, Jonathan Whitmore received the Ethical Builder Award for his commitment to worker safety, for his charitable contributions, for being a pillar of the Chicago community. The irony burned. Elena and Sarah found their seats. Media section, front row, perfect view of the stage. Other journalists filled the area. Tribune, Sun-Times, local TV stations, all here to cover Whitmore's award, to celebrate his legacy. They had no idea what was coming. Diego was already inside. Marcus smuggled him in through a service entrance. He waited in a side room, watching on a monitor, ready. When the moment came, he'd walk through those doors, face the man who destroyed his life, face the choice he made 29 years ago. Elena's phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. He's nervous, but ready. Police are in position. We're good to go. Everything was set. The Tribune ran their expose that morning. Front page. Billionaire's dark secret. Construction empire built on covered-up deaths. Diego's full interview. The 1996 documents. The current safety violations at Lakefront Towers. Photos. Testimony. Evidence. The story exploded. Social media erupted. Other news outlets picked it up. By noon, Whitmore Development's stock dropped 15%. By evening, the state attorney general announced an investigation. OSHA reopened the 1996 case. Current construction at Lakefront Towers was halted pending safety review. But Whitmore still came to his gala, still planned to accept his award. His lawyers released statements, denied everything, called Diego a liar seeking attention, called Elena an obsessed conspiracy theorist, said the Tribune story was slanderous, threatened lawsuits. Whitmore believed he could still win, that his money and power would protect him, that he could smile and shake hands and make this all disappear like he'd made everything else disappear. He was wrong. The lights dimmed. The program began. Mayor gave a speech. Foundation director gave a speech. Everyone praised Whitmore, called him a visionary, a philanthropist, a builder of dreams. Elena's jaw clenched. Sarah squeezed her hand. Soon, Sarah whispered. Finally, Whitmore took the stage. Applause filled the ballroom. He smiled, waved, looked comfortable, confident. He wore a navy suit, expensive, and there, at his wrists, blue enamel cufflinks. The same ones, still wearing them, still displaying his trophy. Elena's blood went hot. Thank you, Whitmore said into the microphone. I'm honored to receive this recognition. For 50 years, I've dedicated my life to building Chicago, to creating homes, to supporting workers and families, to making this city greater. Lies, every word, lies built on buried bodies and silenced voices. Construction is dangerous work, Whitmore continued. We've implemented the highest safety standards, protected our workers, because at Whitmore Development, people come first. More lies. Tonight, I accept this award on behalf of everyone who's helped build this company, the workers, the families. The projection screens behind him flickered. Whitmore paused, looked back, confused. The screens changed. No longer showing the Whitmore Foundation logo. Now showing something else. 4 faces. For men, construction workers. The 1996 victims. Their names appeared below. Robert Johnson, Miguel Santos, James Washington, Kevin O'Brien, and the date, October 17, 1996. The ballroom went silent. Whitmore's face drained of color. He stepped back from the podium. What is this? The screens changed again. Safety reports. Diego's handwriting. Violations documented. Warnings ignored. Proof that Whitmore knew. Proof he chose profit over lives. Then Diego's face filled the screens. His video testimony from the Tribune interview. His voice echoed through the ballroom. My name is Diego Martinez. I was the site foreman when those 4 men died. Jonathan Whitmore paid me to stay silent. $200,000 to disappear. To let him cover up what really happened. I took the money. I was wrong. But he was worse. And he's still doing it. Right now. At Lakefront Towers. Workers are at risk because Jonathan Whitmore cares more about money than human lives. Whitmore grabbed the microphone. This is a lie. This is... The side doors opened. Diego Martinez walked into the ballroom. Older, gray, but alive, real, no longer hiding. The crowd gasped. Cameras flashed. Journalists shot to their feet. Diego walked down the center aisle. Every eye in the room followed him. He stopped at the stage, looked up at Whitmore. Hello, Jonathan, Diego said. Remember me? Whitmore stared at Diego like he was seeing a ghost. His mouth open. No words came out. His hand gripped the podium so hard his knuckles went white. You're supposed to be gone, Whitmore finally said. His voice came out wrong, shaky. Not the confident billionaire anymore. Just the scared man. I was gone. Diego climbed the stage stairs. Slow, steady. For 29 years. You made sure of that. $200,000. New name. New life. Stay quiet or go to prison. That was the deal. I don't know what you're talking about. Whitmore looked at the crowd, at the cameras, at the witnesses. This man is mentally unstable. I have the bank records. Diego cut him off. The transfer from your company account to mine. February 1997. $200,000. Payment for my silence about the 4 men your cost-cutting killed. The projection screens change again. Bank statements. Transfer records. Whitmore Development to Diego Martinez. Dated. Verified. Undeniable. Security guards moved toward the stage. Whitmore gestured at them. Remove this man. Now. I wouldn't do that. Sarah stood up in the media section, held up her press badge. Sarah Chin, Chicago Tribune. We have police standing by. Detective Morrison, if you would. A woman in a dark suit stepped forward from the side of the room. Badge visible. Jonathan Whitmore, I have a warrant for your arrest. Multiple counts of criminal negligence, bribery of public officials, and endangerment at your Lakefront Towers construction site. The ballroom erupted. Guests stood. Cameras flashed everywhere. Journalists shouted questions. The perfect gala dissolved into chaos. Elena climbed onto the stage, stood next to her father, faced Whitmore together. You remember me? Elena asked. Last year, I showed you a photo. You said I was mistaken. Whitmore's eyes went to her. Recognition hit. His face changed. Fear, anger, defeat, all mixed together. You, he breathed. Me. Elena held up her phone. Same photo. Her father with the cufflinks. I was right. You knew exactly who he was. You knew those cufflinks were his. And you wore them anyway. Like a trophy. Like proof you won. You don't understand. Whitmore's voice cracked. I built this city. I created jobs. I gave families homes. You killed people, Diego said quietly. For men in 1996. And you were about to kill more at Lakefront Towers. Same pattern. Same corners cut. Same disregard for human life. Because that's who you are. You don't build. You destroy. And you profit from the destruction. Whitmore shook his head. Desperate. I gave you a gift. That money let you survive. Let your family survive. You wouldn't have made it without me. I gave you a chance. You gave me a prison. Diego's voice stayed calm, steady. Every day for 29 years. Every time I looked in the mirror. Every time I thought about my daughter growing up without me. Every time I remembered those 4 men who died because I didn't fight hard enough. That was my prison, the one you built. You chose to take the money. You chose to leave. You're right. Diego nodded. I chose wrong. I was weak. I was scared. I let you buy my silence. And I've spent every day since paying for that choice. But you never paid for anything. You just kept building, kept cutting corners, kept risking lives. And when people died, you paid them to disappear, like they never mattered, like they were just costs in your profit margin. Detective Morrison moved closer. Mr. Whitmore, I need you to come with me. Wait. Whitmore held up his hands, looked at the crowd, at the cameras, at his world falling apart. I can fix this. Donations, settlements, whatever the families need, whatever it takes. It's too late for that, Elena said. You can't buy your way out this time. There are too many witnesses, too much evidence, too many people who finally stopped being afraid of you. 2 officers stepped onto the stage, took Whitmore's arms, started reading his rights. The crowd watched in silence. Phones recorded everything. This moment would be everywhere. The fall of Jonathan Whitmore, the billionaire who built an empire on buried bodies. As they led him away, Whitmore looked back at Diego. I'm sorry. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Diego watched him go. His face showed nothing. No satisfaction. No anger. Just tired acceptance. Sorry doesn't bring them back. Any of them. The ballroom stayed silent. Then someone started clapping. One person. Then another. Then more. Not for Whitmore. For Diego. For Elena. For the truth finally coming out. Sarah recorded everything. The arrest. The reaction. The moment justice finally arrived 29 years late. Elena looked at her father. He looked back at her. And for the first time in 29 years, Diego Martinez smiled. Not happy. Not relieved. Just free. Finally free. The police took Whitmore through a side exit. Away from cameras. Away from the crowd. Elena and Diego followed. Not to gloat. Just to finish it. To close this chapter finally. In the hallway, Detective Morrison stopped them. "We'll need full statements from both of you," she said. "Tomorrow morning. Downtown." "We'll be there," Elena answered. Whitmore sat on a bench, hands cuffed behind his back. 2 officers stood guard. He looked smaller somehow, without his podium and audience, without his power, just an old man who made terrible choices for 30 years. He saw them approach, looked up. "Can we have a minute?" Elena asked the detective. Morrison hesitated, then nodded. 2 minutes. We'll be right here." Elena and Diego stood in front of Whitmore. None of them spoke for a long moment. "I really am sorry," Whitmore said finally. "I know that doesn't mean anything, but I am." "Why?" Elena asked. "Why did you do it? You had money. You had success. Why cut corners? Why risk lives?" Whitmore looked at his hands, the cufflinks visible on his wrists. "My father built the family business. My brother ran it. My sister married into politics. I was the failure, the dreamer. I needed to prove I could be ruthless too, that I could win. And once I started, I couldn't stop. Every building had to be faster, cheaper, bigger. I told myself the risk was worth it, that accidents were rare, that I was creating something important." He looked up. "I was wrong. I knew I was wrong, but I kept going anyway." Diego crouched down, eye level with Whitmore. "For men died, for families lost husbands, fathers, brothers, sons, because you needed to prove something to your daddy." "I know, and you'd still be doing it if we hadn't stopped you." Whitmore didn't answer, didn't deny it. The silence was answer enough. Diego reached out, touched the cufflinks on Whitmore's wrists. "These were my father's, made by hand in Mexico City. He gave them to me when I got married, said they represented honest work, integrity, things that actually mattered." Diego's fingers moved to unclasp them. "You don't get to keep them." Whitmore didn't resist. Let Diego remove the cufflinks. Take back what was stolen. Diego stood, held them in his palm. The blue enamel caught the hallway light. After 29 years, they were his again. "What happens now?" Whitmore asked. "You go to prison," Elena said. "The families of the 1996 victims get the truth. The workers at Lakefront Towers get safe working conditions. And we stop you from hurting anyone else. That's not justice. That's revenge." "No." Diego closed his hand around the cufflinks. "Revenge would be making you disappear, making you lose your family, making you live with guilt for 30 years. This is just consequences." Finally, Detective Morrison approached. "Time's up." They lifted Whitmore to his feet, started walking him toward the exit. He looked back one more time. "For what it's worth," Whitmore said, "your daughter is braver than both of us. She didn't run. She didn't take money. She fought. You should be proud." Diego watched him go, didn't respond. When Whitmore disappeared through the doors, Diego turned to Elena. "He's right," Diego said quietly. "You're braver than I ever was." Elena took the cufflinks from his hand, looked at them. Her grandfather's work, her father's shame, Whitmore's trophy. Now just pieces of metal and enamel. Beautiful, complicated, heavy with history. "These belong to our family," Elena said. "Not them. Not anymore." She handed them back to Diego. He closed his fingers around them, and something that had been broken for 29 years started, slowly, to heal. 6 months later, Elena sat in a coffee shop in Pilsen. Her nursing textbooks spread across the table. Anatomy, pharmacology, patient care. She'd enrolled at Chicago State using money from a settlement. The families of the 1996 victims each received $2 million. Elena got nothing. She didn't want Whitmore's money, but the families insisted, gave her a portion, said she gave them something worth more than money, the truth. The door opened. Diego walked in, right on time. They met every Thursday, had coffee, talked, slowly rebuilt what was broken. "How's class?" Diego asked, sitting down. "Hard." Elena smiled. "But good. I'll be done in 2 years. Then I can actually help people." "You're already helping people." Diego pulled out his phone. showed her an article. Workers at lakefront towers. OSHA forced Whitmore Development to fix all the violations. New safety standards. Independent inspections. Real consequences if they cut corners. Good. And Whitmore's trial starts next month. Prosecutor says the case is solid. He's looking at 20 years minimum. Elena nodded. 20 years. For 30 years of crimes. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. Diego reached into his pocket, pulled out a small wooden box, set it on the table between them. I made this. Thought you should have it. Elena opened the box. Inside, the cufflinks sat on velvet, but also a photo, black and white. An older man at a workbench, tools in hand, focused, creating. My father, Diego said. Your grandfather, the man who made those cufflinks. I thought you should know where they came from. Before all this, when they just represented honest work. Elena touched the photo. She'd never seen her grandfather. He died before she was born. But looking at him now, she saw Diego's face. Her own face. Family resemblance across generations. Thank you, she whispered. I volunteer at a workers' rights organization now, Diego said. Help construction workers report violations. Make sure they don't face what I faced. Impossible choices. It doesn't undo what I did, but maybe it helps. It helps? Elena closed the box. We can't change the past. We can only do better going forward. Diego reached across the table, squeezed her hand. Your mother would be proud of you. I know I am. Elena squeezed back. It wasn't forgiveness. Not completely, but it was progress. And sometimes progress was enough. Elena stood at Rose Hill Cemetery, her mother's grave. Fresh flowers in hand. She knelt down, placed them on the stone. I found him, Mom, Elena said quietly. I found out what happened. It's not a happy story. It's complicated. He made mistakes. But I know the truth now. You deserve to know it too. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you before. The wind moved through the trees. Somewhere birds sang. I'm going to be okay, Elena continued. I'm finishing nursing school. Diego and I are talking, working on it. And Whitmore's paying for what he did. It took 29 years, but justice happened. Finally, she stood, touched the gravestone one last time. I love you. I miss you. And I promise I'll keep fighting. For the truth. For people who can't fight for themselves. That's your legacy too. Elena walked back to her car. The wooden box with the cufflinks sat in her passenger seat. Her grandfather's craftsmanship. Her father's burden. Her family story. Complicated. Painful, real. Truth costs everything, but silence costs more. Sometimes the hardest stories are the ones that matter most. If this one mattered to you, share your thoughts below. And if you believe some truths are worth the cost, subscribe for more stories about people who chose courage over comfort.